And in 3, 2, and 1.
One.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for signing up for today's webinar. So today's presentation is about MD editor tools in Alma, and the MD editor suite in Alma is complex. There's a long list of processes that it can be used for. So for today, the goal is to look at 3 key processes that we use MD editor for. Import-export of catalog records, also known as copy cataloging, merging catalog records in the institution zone and the network zone, and adding electronic portfolios to bib records. So people might be wondering, why choose these particular processes? 3 reasons came to mind. So first, Georgetown's main campus and the Doha campus do these workflows regularly, meaning either daily or weekly. We always have new material coming in, and we are also doing record cleanup within the current collections in both places. Number 2, if we're doing these processes regularly, then other libraries with the Alma system might like to see the steps that we've chosen to get from A to B. We do know that there tends to be more than one way to do certain processes in any type of library system. And thirdly, our situation is slightly different due to being part of a consortium. So that means having to always consider an extra zone. We work with a network zone, and many of our records are shared with 8 other libraries in the WRLC consortium in Washington, DC. So this tends to mean some extra steps here and there within the processes that we do, and we're very conscious of how the workflow that we choose might affect records for other libraries. I'm very fortunate to have been able to work for the past 4 years from a distance and occasionally in real time with our webinar presenter. Ashley Folsom is the unit head of metadata services at Georgetown University Library on our main campus. Ashley's been with the library for 7 years, 5 of them as a metadata special collections librarian, and the last 2 as the unit head in the technical services department. She currently manages a 7-person team, and she also represents Georgetown within the WRLC consortium as a member of the metadata committee. So I'm really grateful to Ashley for agreeing to participate in this presentation and taking time out of her busy schedule to share her knowledge and experience with us. So I'm now going to hit my mute button and hand over the floor to Ashley.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Yay, Ashley.
Yeah. Hi, Donna. But thank you, Kelsey. That was a really nice introduction. It's lovely to meet all of you virtually. I'm hailing from Northern Virginia. I don't know if some people who came in a little later, but in the United States. And we have a lot to go over today for resource management. So I'll just get started. And right now I'm going to share my screen. So hopefully that will work okay. So let's see. I'm gonna hit share. And it's thinking, can you see my frog?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. Awesome. So let's see if it will let me open Alma, because there we go. Can you see Alma now? Okay. So
no, sorry, I can't see it.
You can't see it?
No.
Oh. Let me
That's weird. I
stop
can see it.
You can see it?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, I'm seeing it, Ashley.
Weird. Well, I will stop the share and then reshare it and see if that helps the people that aren't seeing it. Let's try one more time. Let's try this one. Is that better?
no.
Now we can't see anything.
I can't see
Now there's nothing, yeah.
Let's try
Try
this
the previous one again.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Now you can see it?
I see the frog.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, looks good.
I see the frog.
Okay, and here's Alma.
Yep,
Yeah.
I see it.
I see
Good.
it.
Sorry, I'm
I
working.
see as well.
Good. I'm working from a MacBook Air, and sometimes the Zoom software doesn't really like to work with it very well. Plus, it's old. But so today we're going to talk about, I have my notes on another monitor, so if you see me looking the other way, that's what I'm doing. Also, I tend to speak very quickly, so if you need me to slow down, please let me know in the chat or just yell at me. That's totally acceptable. So the first thing we're going to talk today about is copy cataloging in Alma. And so what we do is we import records from OCLC, but because we moved to Alma, we need to use a process called Search External Resources. They actually changed the name to Search Resources, but we're essentially reaching out from Alma to OCLC to bring in a bib record. With our purchases, we create brief order records in the system so we can keep track of what we're purchasing. Usually print materials, we do some for ebooks. We also do things for special collections, stuff like that. So today I'm going to talk about our most basic workflow, which is copy cataloging of purchase materials that have brief order records in Alma. So I have a few examples here on my cheat sheet over here. So I'm just going to pull that up, and I'm copying the MMS ID, which is the unique identifier in Alma for a bibliographic record. So I'm going to perform an all titles MMS ID search here in the search bar to find the brief record that I created as an example. So hopefully my internet won't be too slow. Okay, so now you can see it. And what I'm going to do is I'll have to click on Edit Record to open the record in the Metadata Editor. And you can see that that it's very brief. It only has a title, author, and a 264 field for the publication date. And I added that 500 note in there because the metadata staff are very diligent, and if they saw this record, they would probably delete it or ask me about it. So I put that note in there to make sure it didn't get deleted. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we have a full bibliographic record that we find in OCLC. That's the database that we use here at Georgetown, and GU-Q uses it as well. And so when we find a full bibliographic record or we create one, we need to then overlay it in Alma over this brief record and share it with the network zone. Right now, as you can see, it's suppressed and it's only in the institution zone, and I can show you the difference. So to bring that record in and overlay this brief one, we'll click on Tools and then Search Resources. This is what I was talking about a little bit earlier. It used to be called Search External Resources, but I think Ex Libris found that users found that a little too confusing. So now we click on Search Resources, and I'm just going to minimize this window here so I can see the cataloging profile over here. So we want to make sure that our search cataloging profile is specifically for OCLC. If you choose Library of Congress or British Library, you would be bringing records in from their public catalogs, and we don't want to do that. We just want OCLC. So we click on that. Normally what I do is I click clear to clear out all of those fields there, and then I want to grab the OCLC number for this specific title from OCLC and copy it, or you can type it in. I find copying is better because I cause less errors. So I paste that into the system number field because that's what an OCLC is, considered in Alma as a system number. And then we click on search. And it runs a little bit. Alma's a little slow because it's cloud-based, which I'm sure all of you know. One option here to make the process go faster, since we already know that this is the record that we want, we found it in OCLC, we matched it to our item in hand, we just have to click on the ellipses here. Otherwise, if you wanted to really double check, you could click on view. And some people like to do that just in case they copied the wrong number. So it's a good practice to follow. The next thing that we want to do is click on copy and merge. The reason we're choosing copy and merge and not copy and overlay is because the overlay function does not follow a merge rule. It will just completely overlay whatever it is that you have in that record. And if there are, if there's fund information or local provenance information, such as gift notes already in that record, we want to keep those. So a colleague of ours at American University has created a merge rule that will keep any sort of local metadata in your institution zone. So that's why we always use copy and merge. So I'll click on that. And then it does its magic for you, and you can see what it all looks like. So now there's a much more full record here. And we see at the bottom that it's held by DGU. DGU is Georgetown's OCLC MARC code. So the next thing that I like to do is I make sure that I save it. And you can just click on that save icon. When you see this matched records exist in the catalog box, I generally click no because it's matching to an electronic record and I don't want to merge those. So I click on no, and we'll talk about merging in the next section. And then what we want to do is add our holdings. So that will show the library and location code and the call number, so where someone can find it. So we just click on this icon here. It looks like a piece of paper with a plus sign. So you click on add holdings, and a nice, oh, I knew it was going to do this because I'm in a presentation. Of course it's going to do this. So when this happens, what I like to do is I just click on resources and then open the metadata editor again, because it will save the bibliographic record in the editor for you. And I apologize for the delay. So then you just click on the bibliographic record again and open it. And let's see if it'll let me split my screen here. So this is the split screen editor icon. And then if you put your cursor to the right of the screen, you should be able to open, there you go. That's what a holdings record looks like in Alma. And then this 852 field, that's where the library name and the location and the call number will go. To make it a lot easier, Ex Libris has allowed us to use a keyboard shortcut. So it's Control F to open the 852, and then you can, the sublocation or collection is the library name. So for us, it's LAU, and for the GU-Q library, it's Qatar. So right now I'm going to click on LAU, and then we have a ton of locations, which Alma calls the shelving location, but I know that I just want the stacks location, the STX. So I'm just going to scroll all the way down and click on that. You can also type it in. Some people prefer to type it in. And then what I do, because there is a 050 here that I know is an accurate call number because I already checked that in OCLC, I can just hit the save icon and it automatically populates the 852 with the call number. So the first part of the LC class goes in the subfield H, and then the Qatar with the publication date goes in the subfield I. But because I don't really need to know that, but because Alma can automatically do that for me, which is really nice. So the next thing I need to do is add the item. So you'll click on this, the icon that looks like a book with a plus sign. And you click on that and it opens up the physical item editor, which is a new screen. So generally here, all we have to do is choose which material type. It's usually book that we're working on. And then I'm going to put in a test barcode, but we usually have regular barcodes. So I'm just going to put in test AAF for my name. And then we click save. So then there are a few other things that we have to remember to do before we move on to the next record. So the first thing we have to do is make sure that we file and release, save and release the holdings record, because otherwise it would just stay in your metadata editor forever. So you just click on File, Save and Release Record, and now it's out in Alma. And then we want to go back to our bibliographic record. So on the left-hand side here, we click on the plus sign, and then we click on the bibliographic record itself, and it'll open. You'll notice here that there's an I with a red cross through it. That means that it's suppressed. Sometimes our records are suppressed when created by our acquisitions team, so we want to make sure that we unsuppress those so that they are available to the public. So we click on Tools, Set Management Tags, and then you'll see that Suppress from Discovery is checked. You'll just click on that to uncheck it, and you'll see that there's a home icon here. The home icon means that the record is only in our institution zone, and Kelty briefly touched on that in her introduction. So the institution zone is for materials that Georgetown owns, and so all of our records are in that zone, and that's where all of our inventory, meaning our holdings records and our item records, are there. And anything that we want to share with the consortium, with the Washington Research Library Consortium that we are a part of, we need to share with the network zone. So the network zone only holds bibliographic data, and it'll show you which libraries hold which which titles. So to share it with the network zone, we click on File and then Share with Network, and it'll do that matched record, and we don't want to do that. We'll just click on No, and then it'll save it and it'll share it with the network zone. And I'll search for that MMS ID again so you can see what it looks like when it's also shared with the network zone. It's just going to take a little while. There we go. Okay, so we'll search for that MMS ID one more time. And now you can see that we have a full bibliographic record here. We have one physical holdings, which means we have one item that is in the Lounger library in our stacks location with this call number. And then if you click on items, you'll see that it has a barcode, our test one for today, and the call number. And then this icon here, this like hierarchy icon, that means that it's linked to the network zone. If you are in the institution zone tab and you don't see an NZ icon, that means that it's only in the institution zone. Are there any questions before I move on to the next thing? No? Okay, great. So I know that I have another example for this, but
May I ask a question?
of course.
Yeah, I'm Leah, and I would like to know, when you share the bib record with the network zone, you're not sharing the item record with them, just the bib record.
Correct. It's just the bibliographic metadata. That's correct.
So if you want to share, is there a possibility of sharing the item record with them?
No, the only time that another institution could see our item information is when they search in our Primo V in our display, our discovery layer. Or they could, Kelty, did you have?
I was just going to say, can you click on the network zone and just we can see what it looks like when it goes over there?
Yeah, so I'll click on the network zone tab. So it'll actually I'll click on this network zone icon because I have the search on just the IZ MMS ID, and I know that because it ends in 4111 for Georgetown. So I'll click on the network zone icon, and that will take this record into the network zone. And now you can see it's just held by us. But this is what you would see in the network zone. And you can tell that it's held by Georgetown because it has this home icon here. If there were other libraries attached to this record, you would see, George Washington University or George Mason University here. Each institution could then click on those holdings and see it there. I forgot about that part. So they will see like the call number and the library and the location there. So I forgot about that part. That was a good point, Kelty. Does that help to answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is merge two network zone records, because when we migrated with 8 other institutions, and so that's a ton of metadata, and some things were duplicated. It still happens now sometimes. When we first realized it, there were about 5,000 records a month, and now there are about 40, and it's getting less and less every month, which is wonderful because it's a lot of work to merge them. As you'll see, it's a manual process. So I'm going to use the record that we just created. I duplicated on purpose for this webinar. So I'm going to copy the OCLC number, and then we will search for the OCLC number in the network zone. So right now, OCLC control number, we are searching in the institution zone because you can see which scope it is here with the house icon. So I'm going to change that to network by just clicking on it and then clicking network. And then I'll put my cursor and paste my OCLC number. And when I click search, we should see 2 records. Yeah, and we have holdings on both of them. So what we want to do is make sure that there's only one of these records, and that both of our item records are on that one record that is linked from our institution zone to the network zone. So what we have to do is open both of these records in the metadata editor and then merge them together. So I'll start with the top one. And usually what you want to make sure is that the better record is on the left-hand side, and that you're merging the record on the right-hand side into the better record. So I'll show you what that means in a second. So we've opened the first record, and then we have to search again by that OCLC number to open the second record. So I'll open the second record here. And it just will take a little bit of time. I apologize for that. So we just want to make sure that this is the best record. It looks like it is. Looks like the original record. Yeah, it has some of our 9XX fields. Good. So then what I want to do is click on this split editor icon over here. And what that allows me to do is to see two different bibliographic records and compare them in the metadata editor itself, which is actually a really nice feature. So you click on this right blank side here, and then click on the bibliographic record on the left toolbar that is not highlighted. So that way you know that you're opening the record that you want to merge. So you click on that, and then you can double check them. These are pretty much exactly the same record. So we know that basically because of the OCLC number is exactly the same. But we also can check the other metadata briefly to make sure. So the title and the author are the same, and the publication information is the same, the number of pages. Those are the things that we really look out for. So then what we have to do is click into the record on the left, which is the one we want to keep, and then we click on Tools, Mark Bibliographic, and then Merge Records and Combine Inventory. And that will open up the merge editor, which, there we go. So this also, like, as I was talking about earlier, the copy and merge function when we're copying cataloging, our colleague at American University also wrote a merge rule for this process so we don't lose any local metadata, especially because some of our colleagues at George Washington University, George Mason, I think those are the two, and they're adding linked data elements to bibliographic records in the network zone. So we don't want to lose that metadata. So we make sure that we click on the consortium NZ overlay all fields but local for integration profile, import profile, and combine and merge inventory. So we're using the combine and merge inventory. And what that will do will just make sure that none of the local fields are lost in either record, but merge them together. And you can see that one physical item is going to also be merged into this record, and that we want to delete the secondary record. What I like to do is click on Show Merge Preview in case I'm like tired and I have the wrong record on the left-hand side. And this will just show you exactly what it'll look like when it's merged. And as you can see, my 500 note here was added in because it didn't exist in the left-hand record. So I'll make sure to delete that before I save it. But everything else looks good to me. So I'm going to click on OK, and then click on OK again, and it'll automatically do the merge process for me. And we'll just let that run for a minute. I'll take a sip of water. My staff and I haven't quite figured out why this box pops up, but it doesn't seem to cause any problems. So we just click Close. And we double check to make sure that the record looks good. I'm going to delete that 500 note. So I just click into that 500 note and then click on Edit, Remove Field. What we've discovered is that you really have to click the Save icon when you make any changes to a record before you click File, Save, and Release Record, because for some reason it doesn't display properly in Primo. At least that's what we've discovered on our end. So once you hit the Save icon and it's saved, you click on File, Save, and Release Record. And then once it's saved, we'll search for that OCLC number again in the network zone. And we can see that there's just one record now, and it's just held by our institution. And if we do that same search in the institution zone, all you have to do is click on the institution zone tab. You can see that there is one record. It now has two holdings. This is the only problem, that if you have two items that are on the same holdings record and you merge, you then have to relink your items to the one holdings record. Theoretically, Alma should not allow this, but because we're kind of gaming the system, it does allow it. So all you have to do is click on Items, and then click on the one that you know is the one that needs to be moved. So I know because it has the test AAF, we'll click on the checkbox next to that, and then you just click on relink to another bib. No, sorry, wrong thing. I'm getting ahead of myself. You click on change holdings. My apologies. And then you choose the holdings record that is available and click on select. So it'll move it from the holdings record that it's on to the holdings record that has the other items. So we only have one of the same holdings record with 2 items attached. So you click on select, and then it should have worked. So what we do again is we'll just search in the institution zone. And now we have one holdings record that has 2 items available and 1 empty holdings record. So then you have to delete that empty holdings record. So you click on holdings and you click on the checkbox next to the one that has no items connected to it. And then you click on delete holdings. And then Alma will ask you to confirm just in case. So you click confirm. And then if you go back, you'll see that there's just one physical holdings with 2 items. So I know that that is a lot all at once. That is our process for merging records in the network zone when we see them. Like I said, there aren't very many of them anymore, thankfully. But the next process we'll talk about is merging records in the institution zone, which is another migration problem. But I wanted to stop for a second to see if anyone had any questions about this. Yes.
Yes, I have a question. So thank you. This is my first time of seeing this. What is MMID and how do you know which MMID of the book that you want to add to your collection?
That's a really good question. The MMS ID is the unique bibliographic identifier for your specific bibliographic record. So when we started the copy cataloging process earlier in the presentation, that specific brief record had its own MMS ID, which in the institution zone, that's what it looks like here, and it ends in 4111 for Georgetown.
Okay.
Yeah, so then we overlaid that record with better metadata,
Right.
but it created, when I shared it with the network zone, because there was already one in there, there was another record with another unique MMS ID. So what we had to do was merge them. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions? Okay, so I'll move on to the merging of NZ institution zone records, excuse me. So I have a few examples here, but this process happened when we migrated from Sierra to Alma. I still have no idea why, but we have over 9,000 of them, and I haven't quite figured out a way to do this in an automatic process. So I'll show you the manual process that we've been doing. So I'm just gonna click on the home icon and go back home. And so this one, I would actually recommend that you use 2 different browsers, but that's kind of hard to show you on Zoom. So I'm just gonna do it with one browser. But first we search in the institution zone by OCLC number. Make sure I have the right one. I do. And you'll see there are two different records for the same resource. And we can tell that by looking, if you click on record number, it'll show you the OCLC number here. So this one ends in 7894. If we click on this one, it's, well, I don't know if y'all can see that, but it also ends in 7894. And the title is the same, the ISBNs are the same. So we know that these are the same record, but there are 2 of them in the institution zone. And if you click on the network zone icon, there's only one. So only one of these institution zone records linked to the network zone properly. We don't know why, but this is the fix for it. So we go back to the institution zone to check what we have, to make sure we have 2 different holdings records. So this one is for Lowinger stacks, and this one is for the Qatar stacks. We don't know why this happened, but what we have to do is click on the network zone record and open it in the metadata editor so we can check to see which holdings linked to the network zone and which ones didn't. So we just open up that record, and this box with the magnifying glass is called the View Inventory icon. So if you click on that, it will show you which inventory is linked to the network zone. So right now it's the Qatar library item. Sometimes it's the Lao one. You never know. So then what we have to do is we will leave this record open in the metadata editor, but I'll have to search again for the stacks copy to see exactly what the call number is. So you want to search that in the institution zone, and Alma saves about 9 or 10 of your searches, so it's easy to do over again. So I'll click on the institution zone one. I believe the first one was the Lao stacks one. So then I copy the call number and click on copy. And then I can go to resources and open the metadata editor again, and my network zone bib record will be there. On the left-hand side, you'll see in the toolbar. So you click on the plus sign under bibliographic and then click on your bibliographic record. So now what we have to do is similar to what we did with the copy cataloging process, is we added a holdings record. And then we put our cursor in the A52 and hit Control F to open up that awesome form. And we pick Lao for Lowinger in the library. So that's the sublocation. And then the shelving location is stacks. So I know it's all the way at the bottom, and I'm going to click on stacks. And then this part is a little different because I'm not positive if the Lao stacks, I mean, they usually are, but I'm not positive if the Lao stacks call number is the same as the Qatar one. So that's why I copied it, and I'm going to paste it into where it belongs. So first I paste the whole call number into subfield H, classification part. And then I take what I know is the Qatar, because it starts with that period there and the publication date, and then cut that and move it to the item part, which is subfield I. And then all I have to do is click save. And then it looks like the call number that we saw earlier this morning or this afternoon when we were copy cataloging. So then we just file, save and release both of these records to make sure everything looks good, and it does. So then we file, save and release both of these records, and click no when this match records come up, because it's matching on an electronic record, which we don't want to merge. And then we search again in the institution zone for that OCLC number. And now we can see that one of these records has 2 physical holdings on it. So there's the Qatar one that has its available item, and the stacks one that does not have an item yet. But that means this is the one that is linked to the network zone. So what we want to do is make sure that we copy the OCLC number again, because we're going to have to search for it when we relink the inventory. So to be able to relink the inventory that is not currently connected to the network zone and is just kind of floating in the institution zone and doesn't display in Primo, we want to click on physical and then click on items. And you'll see the item record pop up with the barcode and the call number. And you'll want to click on the checkbox next to the barcode. And this is where you click on relink to another bib. So this is basically like transferring this item to another bibliographic record, and then it'll automatically delete the bibliographic record that is kind of just floating in the ether. So we click on relink. And then this is the part where we need the OCLC number copied. So if you click on this select bibliographic record search function here, it brings up a repository search in a new window. So you can just paste your OCLC number in there. If you were searching by something else, Alma allows you to choose like MMSID, ISBN, title, any of the other search options. But usually OCLC number is the best because it's a unique identifier. So you click on search, and then we'll want to navigate to the one that we know that has 2 physical holdings. So we know it has the stacks holdings that we want to connect to. So we click on that record, and then it'll bring up both of the holdings records, and you want to choose the one that's appropriate for the item that you're moving. So we know the Lowinger stacks one because there are no items available. And we click on select. And then this is where we can choose to delete the holdings record, suppress it, or delete the whole bibliographic record. And because we just want one record in the institution zone for this OCLC number and title, we'll click on delete bibliographic record and click on go. And it's it just has to work a little bit, so it's taking its time. And I apologize, it usually doesn't take this long. Okay, so there we go. So then to double check what we just did, you have to click on the home icon, and then you can search for your OCLC number in the institution zone again. And we can see that we have 2 different holdings records here on one bibliographic record. And then if we search the same thing in the network zone, we can just see that one bibliographic record. So we know everything is okay. And if you click on held by one, it'll only say my institution because Georgetown's main campus and GU-Q use the same institution zone. Are there any questions about that process? I think I can't see everyone, so if you do have questions, feel free to just speak up. But if not, I know that was a process. Okay, so the last thing that I want to talk about, and I'll go back to our homepage, is creating a standalone portfolio on a bibliographic record for an ebook. That's something that my unit works very closely on with the Electronic Resources and Serials unit at main campus. So basically what metadata does is we will create the bibliographic record in Alma for an e-resource, usually ebooks, standalone ebooks. And then the Electronic Resources unit will create the portfolio and attach it to an electronic collection. We attach all of our portfolios when we can to an electronic collection because it makes it a lot easier to manage them in the future. Because if they're just standalone and they're hanging out in Alma, it's hard to group them together, find them, and fix any broken links or any problems. But when they're in an electronic collection, we can group them together and figure out any problems that are part of the collection and fix those in batch, usually, which is really nice. So the example that I have here, I created with Cody Hackett, who is our senior e-resources specialist at main campus. So I just copied the MMS ID, which is that unique bibliographic record identifier, and that's the easiest way to find records. And when you're searching for a specific record. So I'm going to paste that in there, and we only want to search in the institution zone because theoretically all of our e-resources should only be in the institution zone if they're only available to the Georgetown community. Anything that we share with the rest of the WLC, we can add to the network zone, but there aren't very many of those. So most of our electronic resources are in the institution zone, and you'll see that because they don't have an icon here. And if you searched for this title in the network zone, you likely would not find it. So this one is IEG's Guide to Sponsorship, and it's the 2017 edition. You can already see that we've added an electronic portfolio, but I wanted to go through the process for you. So this is the bibliographic record that we created. And to add the electronic portfolio, you have to open the record in the Metadata Editor again. So we'll just click on the Edit Record, and it'll open. And then I have the electronic collection linked here and the portfolio link that we need to use. So we can see that this record came from OCLC. It has an OCLC number. And it is definitely an online resource. It has one online resource in the physical description field, and then the carrier fields mention that it's computer-based and for an online resource. So we know the record is good to go. And then to add a portfolio, there's this little briefcase icon here with the plus sign. We click on that, and it's really helpful that Alma puts the flavor text there for you to see, because sometimes people forget what the icons look like. So you click on Add Portfolio, and it opens the portfolio editor for you, just kind of like adding a physical item. It's very similar. So what we're going to do is we want to make sure that we use this existing title because we're adding it to this specific bib record. And then you could also create a new title if you're, Cody does that when he's creating brief bibs for things that he knows people need to access, but we don't have time to create full bibs records for yet. But in this case, we're using the existing title. We'll scroll down to general information, and we always want to use part of an electronic collection for the reasons I explained before. It's just easier to manage. So then if you click in the electronic collection box, I've already searched for a few things. These are the two collections that I work with most often, but you can also just search for Georgetown box, and that I know the name of the specific collection. If I didn't know the name of the collection, or I didn't know like the exact name, I can select from a list here, which you can also search in. So let's see if that works. It'll just be a little slow. This one is the Georgetown Box hosted resources, because we know that this particular PDF is hosted on our instance of Box. So I'll just click on that electronic collection. It automatically has full text service, and it's associated with Lounger Library, our main campus library. Because this is just a standalone ebook, there is no coverage information. So if this were a journal or a database, we would put in date information and any sort of embargo information. But because this is a straight up ebook, we don't need to do that. Also, when you scroll down to the inventory and linking information, the most important thing to do is to add the URL that's associated with the portfolio, because that's how we access them. So I'm just going to copy that from my cheat sheet over here and paste that into our URL box. This one does not need to be proxy enabled. If we had a proxy link up here, then yes, we would click yes, proxy enabled, but this one is just going directly to Box, where our community has to log in anyway.
Somebody's actually pretending to be you, and I really think it's sisters.
Do you have a question?
Born on July 1st, 94. Somebody else is.
Okay, I'll just keep going. But yeah, so once you add the URL, you make sure that all of that information is correct. You're connected to the correct electronic collection. So it'll put this bib record and this portfolio in that collection for easy management. And then you just click the Save and Done button, and you're done. It'll take you back to the bibliographic record, and then you can save the bibliographic record and double check your work. For this one, because I don't like messing with e-resources stuff, I'm just going to click on cancel, since Cody has already added the portfolio. So we'll click on cancel. We'll just pretend I clicked on Save and Done. And then it'll take us back to the bib record. And then all we have to do is click File, Save and Release Record. And then we can search for it again by MMS ID. So I just have to, because I searched electronic collection keywords when I was looking for the electronic collection, Alma defaulted to that. So I just switch it back to MMS ID and search for that particular MMS ID again. And there we go. There's our bib record, and this is our electronic portfolio, excuse me, that is connected to this particular electronic collection. So those were all of the demonstrations that I wanted to provide for you today. And it looks like we have a good amount of time for questions. So I will stop sharing. Well, actually, I'll keep sharing in case other people have questions that they need me to demonstrate something about. So does anyone have any questions? I know that was a lot of information.
Feel free to ask, and we can maybe, if you want, maybe Ashley would be able to redo one if there were certain steps that you wanted to see again.
Yes, definitely, because I have multiple examples for all of these processes.
Everyone is good?
It's a lot of information. Yes?
What an excellent demonstrator.
Thanks, Donna.
I guess the question I might have, Ashley, if people are interested in Word documents with the instructions, I have some here that I've created as well. Are you able to share any of your documentation?
Of course, yeah. We use Google Drive to host all of our documentation for metadata, which I can easily share. But if Google Drive is not useful for people, I can also save them as Microsoft Word documents. And Kelty, I can email them to you if you would like to distribute them.
Sure,
I'm
that's
happy.
fine. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anyone is interested in taking a look, a closer look, or playing with these in their own Alma system, then we can provide step-by-step instruction on paper, virtual.
Yeah, and our processes might be slightly different because we work with a network zone, but we still do our copy cataloging in the institution zone. So that's still relevant.
Is everyone good?
I have another question.
Yeah.
Do you mind to go over, like, if you have a new book that you want to catalog from the beginning, can you please show me? We don't have Alma yet, so that's what I want to learn.
Yeah, so I have another example for that one.
Thank you.
You're welcome, of course. So we have multiple ways of cataloging in Alma right now. If there is no record at all in Alma, like we get a gift, we bring that in from OCLC Connection.
Right.
But if we do have a brief order record, I'm just gonna scroll back up to my examples and grab one. What we do is use Alma's search resources function. So let me just bring up that MMS ID. Okay. So this is an example of a brief order record, right? So this is a purchase material. So we'll click on edit record to open it. And we know that we have found a good full record or created one in OCLC. So we copy that OCLC number based on what we have, the item that we have in hand.
Right.
And then we go to, in the bibliographic record, the brief one, we click on tools and then search resources. And then, so Alma, we make sure that our cataloging profile is to OCLC. So we've connected our instance of Alma with OCLC, and you do that by using an OCLC integration profile. And Ex Libris can definitely help with that. But we worked with our library information technology department because you need a general systems administrator login to be able to do that. But you basically just need your OCLC authorization login. So then when we get to this process, we clear the data that's already in there and we paste our OCLC number into the system number field. And then we click search and Alma reaches out to OCLC through the integration profile that we set up and brings in the exact record that we found in OCLC to overlay this record. So then we click on the ellipses to the right and we choose copy and merge because we have a colleague that wrote that merge profile, so none of our local metadata will go away. So just for safety reasons. So you click on that and then it does the actual merge process for the record. And you can scroll down and make sure that everything looks good.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. So I'm just going to save that real quick. And the integration profile process, I think we also have that documented. So if you would like to learn more about that, I can send that information to Kelty and she can forward it. And it's actually pretty easy to set up once you figure out where the configuration is. Yeah.
I think I might already.
So what? Oh, sorry. I have another. What about Gobi? Do you order your print books from Gobi? And how does that work with Alma?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We do order, like the majority of our print books, I would say about 80% of them come from Gobi. And we participate in the Shelf Ready program. So when we first migrated to Alma in July of, when was that, 2018, we decided that we would load our order records manually, which let me tell you is a process, especially because we order hundreds at a time. But now our process is we use the Gobi API to send our orders to Gobi's system, and then Gobi orders them and goes through the process for over 24 hours, and then shoots those brief records back to Alma. And then they complete the cataloging process for us, and they physically process our books, and they create invoices for us, and they'll create print and electronic invoices. So when the books are ready, they ship the books to us, the print books, and then they send us via an FTP server. They send us the MARC file for the full bibliographic records that they created, and they also send us an EDI file. It's for the electronic invoices. And what we have to do is we load the full bibliographic records into the institution zone, so they merge with the brief records that are already there. And then we have to run a job to share those records with the network zone. If you're not using a network zone, you don't have to worry about that part, but you'll create an import profile. So we use, you go to resources, that's one thing about this tab that I don't really like. It doesn't stick. But then import and then manage import profiles. And we have quite a few actually, but the ones that we use for importing full bib records from vendors, specifically Gobi, is an update inventory import profile. And we have one, we originally were doing this work in the network zone, and then the consortium decided to stop doing that because they didn't want brief records in the network zone anymore. So now we do everything in the institution zone and then share with the network zone. But the one that we use primarily for prompt cats, it's what we call them, our shelf-ready materials from Gobi, is our institution zone update inventory import profile. And you just click on, the ellipses next to that import profile and click on run. And then you can choose your, I'm not gonna load it right now, but I have a file that's ready. But you can click on the file icon here and navigate to your MARC file. So the MARC files generally have the date that that's on the invoice, and then the sub-account code. So our sub-account code ends with 10 for Lounge. So then you just click on choose, and then you click on submit, and it runs that import profile. And it overlays and merges all of the brief records with your full bibliographic records.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the process for that. You're welcome. And to set that up, basically you go to the same place. You go to resources, import, manage, import profiles, and you can add a new profile. I can show you what it looks like. So let's see. Yeah. So basically you just have to give it a name. We don't want to use the network zone. I don't think you'll see that if you're not using a network zone. And then we say where the file is coming from, what type of file. So it's MARC 21 bibliographic and it's binary. And then the most important process here is the match profile, because all of our full bibs need to match on the PO line number. So the PO line number is established when Gobi sends the order records into Alma from their system, and then Alma spits back the PO lines to Gobi so they can put that in their bibliographic records with the vendor reference number. And that's how Alma matches them. And then we just have a bunch of different actions that we do. It's an automatic process because we have so many. You can also do it manually and match them manually, but that's a lot of work. And then we disregard any matches for the community zone. That's where electronic resources from the Ex Libris knowledge base are located, but we don't want those because what we're loading here are print records. With that being said, this doesn't always work because Ex Libris in the past has put print record, always OCLC numbers and ISBNs into CZ records. And for some reason, the order records match on those. I don't know why. And then our full bibs, because we don't know, match on that. And then we have to clean it up. But the other more important part is the inventory information. So this is where you would put, where you would map the MARC metadata that's coming from Gobi or YDP into. So we have our location field is in the 949 subfield L, things like that. A barcode is in 949 subfield I, and that's populated through the import profile when we load the file. So those are all really fun things to set up. But once you get them set up, you are good to go.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, Kelly.
I'm just going to add one thing too, is that Ashley's showing you the import profiles that are for Lounger.
Yes.
And the key thing to remember is that we have our own import profiles for Qatar. And so when we are importing, we're doing very much the same steps, but we have to have our own import profile or it would cause a bit of chaos in the system. So it looks like tons of import profiles there, and that's because we have to basically mirror what the main campus has going on for their imports too, especially for the Gobi stuff. The other thing I'd add too is we are moving over to API to mirror what goes on the main campus, and we've been using a platform called EOCR, which we put in our orders at Gobi, and then in 4 hours they create the records, the order records that will load in, and we have them timed, and those records will load in. We've got it timed to load in at about 7 p.m. in the evenings, and so we wait 24 hours and then those order records show up and we start working on them afterwards. But soon we will be doing the same steps that are being done on main campus with Ashley's team.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's an important thing to note, Kelty, because we share an institution zone, but we don't share acquisitions generally, right?
Yeah, for the most part, things are mirrored, and if I need to go and take a look at something because it doesn't seem to be working in an import profile, I will go and take a look at what Ashley might have created and see where I might have gone wrong. But then again, there's little tweaks and things that are different. We use the interested user tool in Alma. They don't use that on main campus, and that means that some of our rules within that import profile are slightly different, and they will be different when we get everything set up in the new fiscal cycle too. So it's important to point out that we share the room, but certain things are definitely separate.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? I think we filled it up. I would like to say thank you once again to Ashley for providing some excellent examples for each of the processes and showing us how we can do this. And I appreciate her taking the time out to come and participate in our webinar.
Thank you for having me. It was really nice to meet all of you virtually.
Same. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
We'll see everyone next week.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Stay safe.
Bye.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.